I don't think that my human shell is my strength. I think that is when I am like sort of this like disembodied creator that I'm actually have some purpose.
Who are you?
I'm a writer, I'm a storyteller.
In telling stories about gay characters.
The world was filled with people
are
who
you?
occupy different intersections of otherness.
And I was fortunate enough to get in front of creative teams that were woke enough to see my light, to have conversations with others.
Who is this biracial angel?
Trans women and trans men.
I celebrate myself. Celebrate yourself and love each other. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of JBC Presents Conversations with Others. I'm Jeffrey Bowyer-Chapman. I am so excited to be sitting down in conversation with today's guest. He is a writer, producer, comedian, co-creator, and star of his own hilarious bilingual HBO series. He is a space prince on Earth, and his favorite shape is Krisha, whom personally I believe at this point should have her own OnlyFans page, but we'll get into that. And now for the simplest and most complex question of all. Who are you?
I'm just Julio. And that's that. I'm just Julio, and it is just those letters organized in those in that order, and that is what you get. No more, no less.
That is plenty. That's more than enough.
Yeah.
Hello, Julio Torres.
How are you?
Oh man, I am so good. I really am. I'm so happy to be sitting down in conversation with you. You and I have only met in person once before.
Yes. So we hope for the sake of the listeners that we will discover our energetic flow throughout the interview.
You know, I'm not worried about it.
I'm not worried either.
Do you remember the first time that we met?
I distinctly remember you were dressed up. You were like you're very handsomely dressed up in either like a suit or a tux. So I think it might have been the Emmys, right?
It was the Emmys. This is funny actually. This was a conversation I was just having in last week's episode with my guest Brooklyn Heights, because her and I were there together in that moment, and it was such a memorable experience for me because we were at the Emmys. It was the Creative Arts Emmys.
The Creative Arts Emmys Light. Yes.
Emmys Light, the week before the meal deal. And
the luncheon.
And the luncheon, exactly. So
yeah,
I went as RuPaul's date, and that suit that you were speaking of was actually one of RuPaul's suits that I managed to squeeze my big black booty into. And that moment was so memorable because it was the first time that I had met Brooklyn Heights, who's now my co-host on Canada's Drag Race. We were all gathered out at, kind of side stage before going into the Emmys with myself and RuPaul and Brooklyn and a bunch of people. And we were all just kind of like talking and chatting outside in that space for like half an hour or 40 minutes as people kept streaming past us to go into the green room. So there was like Kim Kardashian and Marie Kondo and Robin Thede and like all these people. And after a point, we were just like, do you want to go into the green room instead of standing out here? So I brought myself and Brooklyn Heights and Nina West into the green room. The first person I saw when I walked in was you. And I felt like I had manifested your ass because I had literally just finished watching your HBO special, My Favorite Shapes, like 2 nights before. And after watching that, I mean, I remember thinking, all I could think was, I need to be friends with this human being. And then there you were. And I was chatting with you, and I feel like we chatted for so long that I was ignoring the general announcements that the Emmys had actually begun. And everybody had gone into the auditorium and were seated, and the show had started. So I don't think you had to at that point because you were presenting. Myself and Brooklyn and Nina all rushed into the auditorium and were held off in the wings on the side for like 20 minutes until there was a commercial break. And long story short, I ended up missing Rue in his big moment, accepting his trophy, his statue, his Emmy for Best Reality Show Host. Instead,
meanwhile, you're wearing his clothes.
I know. It's such a shame. There was 2 seat fillers on either side of him. And in those situations, everybody's dressed up to the nines. So like, even though I could see exactly where he was, and I probably could have made my way through the audience to get to him, to sit beside him, I didn't know who was a seat filler and who was a celebrity. So I didn't want to like go over and say like, get out of my seat to somebody and have them be like,
yeah, like I'm on Riverdale. Thank you very much.
yeah, exactly.
I am an aunt in Riverdale. Thank you very much.
Yeah, exactly. God, you know, so it was a very, very memorable experience.
Wow. That was not long ago, right?
That was just this past September, yeah.
Yeah, I was there presenting. And I bombed hard as a presenter. It was sort of brutal. Because you know, like when because they give you that like little like presenter, like little banter.
Yes.
And they give you the option of like, if it feels like you want to change it, go ahead and change it. And I was so nervous, and I was like, I don't think that this will be funny coming out of me, but I'll let the experts do what they are good at doing. And the thing is, the experts gave me the option of changing it, and I didn't take it. I mean, the stakes are so low, but it haunts me. It was like I can't even remember what the little joke was. It was something like, "Let me sketch a scene for you. Here are the best animated." Like, yeah, it was such a corny, funny little moment. But I was paired with, and I will butcher her last name. I can spell it, but I can't pronounce it. You know who I'm going to say?
No, I forget entirely. Tell me who.
Nicole Schreichinger.
Girl, yes, the Pussycat Dolls.
Yeah, exactly. And she was absolutely incredible, and I think levitated the moment with her charisma. And also, I thought that the pairing of us was really funny because it like we outside of that moment literally have nothing to talk about. And I and I thought that was so charming. I was just like, yeah, like I can see where they went like gay man fab lady, like gay man like gorgeous singer dancer pop icon, and yet like it was just so funny to be like, I don't think this is like the best sort of like elevator small talk scenario.
Did you guys have a teleprompter with this banter that they gave you back and forth, or was it just like?
We had a teleprompter, yes. And it was cute and weird and funny to like present an award to, I think, Seth MacFarlane, who was not there. Very like Seth MacFarlane, who unfortunately could not be here, is peak creative arts Emmys.
Yeah.
That is Seth MacFarlane, who unfortunately could not be here, should be the slogan for the creative arts Emmys, because that encapsulates the spirit of the night perfectly.
Yeah, it really does. That's funny. You know, reading off of a teleprompter is much harder than people think, especially when you have the courage to go off book for just a second, because operating the teleprompter often doesn't keep up with you and therefore keeps running the dialogue, and then you're just like scrambling to catch up. It's a whole other world, people, that most people just don't ever, you know, you don't understand unless you've experienced it personally.
Yeah, I have a very difficult time being anything other than myself. And I think that like that like little like award presenting moment, I was like playing the role of a trophy presenter.
Yeah.
When instead I should have just, because I did things that I normally wouldn't. It reminded, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of starting to do stand-up, for the very, very first time. And the very first time I did it, I wasn't really me. I was just doing drag of what a stand-up is. And I think I was doing that with the creative arts Emmys presenting, of being like, hello, I am a cute person, and here are the nominees for best. And it's like, why am I doing that?
This is really funny because I think that may have been the first time that I've ever heard anyone else other than myself describe it in those words, that I have a really hard time being anything else other than myself. But I feel like that can be kind of problematic in our industry, because so often we do have to slip into the drag of somebody else and like portray other characters. Do you
Yeah.
prefer. I think over the years I've learned that I'm really good at being myself, and it's where I feel most powerful. I feel like a lot of people, a lot of my friends who are very seasoned actors, they feel much more comfortable slipping into the skin of another human being, and this like confidence and this boldness to step out into the world in a way they wouldn't have otherwise had they just been themselves.
There's this I don't know if you get YouTube targeted ads for master classes.
That's all I get for my ad.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, I don't know if it was just me, but there's one with. I mean, first of all, I love a trailer for a master class. Love it, eat it up. I think it's golden content. Like Natalie Portman teaching you how to like break a plate when your boyfriend cheats on you is just so like basic acting.
Whole thing. I never skip the ads. I watch the whole thing.
Oh, I never skip the only ads I don't skip because they're so funny. But there's one with Helen Mirren where the ad starts with an empty stage and a chair at the center of the empty stage. And then Helen Mirren walks into the stage and then sits in her chair. And then she goes, you just saw me do the hardest thing an actor could ever do, walking as yourself. And like, I was just like, I could not relate to that at all because like you said, it's like, lady, I know how to do me backwards and forwards. Like I have mastered me. It's the whole like putting on a wig and pretending to be someone else thing that I don't necessarily thrive in. So anytime that I've acted, it's only ever been like an extension of me or a shade of me. Anytime I have successfully acted.
There you go, definitely. You know, I mean, I feel like it's a role you're comfortable in and one that you thrive in. So but stick with the winning form.
Yeah, stick with the yeah.
Or you're in New York right now, yeah?
I am in New York. Yeah, I'm here in Brooklyn.
I used to live in Brooklyn. I lived in Brooklyn for 6 years before moving here. I was in Prospect Park South, and I loved it.
Oh, that's pretty.
So what are the general vibes been like in the city or in Brooklyn for you these past couple weeks?
Well, you know, it's hard to tell because I don't leave my apartment. I think that I surprised myself with the kind of quarantine being that I ended up being. In that I literally don't leave my apartment for weeks. I don't exit my apartment for weeks. And I'm not saying like, except for the supermarket, except for a run, no, I do not cross the threshold of my door for weeks. And I'm sort of like, there's something about this exercise, it just like, I tend to enjoy putting like limits on myself, and I think that being vegan is an extension of that. And just like sort of like thriving with it. It's disgusting to use the word thriving at this with everything that's going on, but finding some kind of happiness or solace in the limits that you put in yourself. I've been weirdly enjoying just being like, oh, okay, so many decisions have been made for me already. Like I can't go see people, I can't go to a restaurant, I can't go to, so I will just be a little robot in my apartment. I feel like a Roomba, and I like kind of enjoy it. It feels like the quarantine has felt like my apartment is this like spaceship, and I don't know when we're gonna land, but they'll let me know when we land. And in the meantime, I can open the hatch. I can like, you know, like truly suit up, go to the roof, and then come down the ladder back. But then other than that, I just have this like self-sustaining ecosystem going on here. Truly doing my laundry in my sink.
You're kidding me. Have you seriously you haven't gone?
Oh yeah. Doing my laundry in my kitchen sink because I love my apartment and it's a really nice apartment. But I think that because I've noticed that I have this allergy, this aversion to anything that feels too bougie. I think that because I had a bit of a hard time immigration wise, that felt like it just like sort of became such a part of my identity of being like, no, I like it when things are like there's something that I find myself weirdly taking pride in making like slightly difficult choices, which is sometimes productive, sometimes it's not productive. Like okay, so like for this apartment, for example, this apartment is not roughing it by any standards. So it's like for this apartment to have been like a difficult choice, it's like LOL, no, it wasn't. But part of the selling point for me was the fact that it had no washer dryer. I was like, oh, good, because I am not one of those people. It was like, oh, excellent, because I will not become a washer dryer person. I will go to the laundromat
or the kitchen sink.
And like now that I'm quarantined, over the kitchen sink, and because there's something. You lived in New York for a while, so you'll probably get what I'm saying. But there's something about people that have washer dryers in their small New York apartments that their entire life becomes laundry. Their entire like space turns into a laundromat. It's like the Tide bottle is out and the clothes are folded and it all smells like laundry. It's like they're obsessed with the laundry of it all. They're like, oh, if like my t-shirt is dirty, I can just run it with just my t-shirt. It's just like, oh, that's just disgusting. Like, no, like I cannot have my life be laundry. That's so upsetting.
When you did have the option of going to the laundromat, would you do it yourself or would you drop it off, like fluff and fold?
A combination of both, depending on how I'm feeling. But every time I just like lug the incredibly heavy laundry bag down like 4 New York City blocks, it sort of begs the question, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? There were apartments, same price, washer dryer. But then, same price, but not as big of windows. So there's that.
You always have to sacrifice. It's funny because I lived in New York from 25 years old till I was 32 before I moved to Los Angeles, and it was something that was so it was necessary. It was a necessary experience in my life. I feel like I grew up in like a very privileged upper middle class, like white suburban environment in small town Canada, and I'd never really had to be in a position where I had to rough it. Like having to navigate how and when and where I would wash my laundry was never something that I had to take into consideration.
Yeah. Right.
Moving to New York, I realized that I needed to like develop a thicker skin, and it was something that I like became addicted to. There was such a pride in it, and like walking everywhere and taking the subway on a hot, slimy July day instead of like just like opting for an Uber or a Lyft, or living on the 5th floor of a 5-story walk up in Harlem instead of like going for the building next door with an elevator and a doorman, and like
What there's something about I like visiting LA, but I don't know that I would like to live in LA because there's this pride in like treating yourself. And everyone is just like constantly treating themselves.
I know.
That I'm just like, no. How can like another massage? Absolutely not.
Girl, I came to the point after many years in New York and then coming to LA quite consistently for work and just feeling the radical difference in the general quality of life. And after a few years of like roughing it and like cutting my teeth and like building that thick skin, I was like, okay, like enough is enough. I do want to go to the spa, and it is spa culture. It's like self-care culture here. Like with like drinking green juice and having a hike 5 minutes from your front door and like constant sunshine and blue skies. Like it's a very, very different energy and atmosphere than New York. And I felt like I couldn't have just moved here directly from Canada, where I was raised, I felt like living in New York for so many years prior to coming here, like I earned it. You know?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, maybe you paid your dues. But there's yeah, I don't know. I like it when things are a little harder. Like I'll give you an example. Like I don't like running. I don't like jogging. I don't like going out for runs. During quarantine or before or after. And then I heard of someone who uses like a weighted vest to go running. And I'm like, oh well, if you make it a little hard, then oh well, yeah, maybe I'll strap an anchor on my waist and that'll make it fun. Yeah, just like running, so I'm just moving. So there's no challenge. I'm just walking quickly. But now that it's like, oh, okay, if you make it a little difficult, then I'm sold.
Is this who you've always been?
I don't know that it's who I've always been. I feel like it's who I've gradually become comfortable with. A comfort in certain discomfort.
Let's start at the so-called beginning for you. So you were born and raised in El Salvador, correct?
Correct.
So like I think it was like while I was watching My Favorite Shapes and then as I was binging Los Spookies when it was first released, I just could my mind just kept going to the place of like, what was Julio like as a kid? Who were you?
Basically what you see now. I feel like the my career is a return to childhood, where I mean, truly doing this, I was just like alone in my room playing with toys, which is, I'm like, you know, it's like what I'm doing right now.
Was that the famous Krisha right there that I just said?
Krisha, yes.
Oh my God, what an honor. Huge fan. And like I said, I mean, if she gets her own OnlyFans account, I will be the first one to sign up.
I thought of doing an OnlyFans account for her where she's just like squashing grapes. Yeah. Very, very slowly like descending into frame and squashing a grape.
Yes, bitch.
But no, I mean, I was a very, very solitary child. Very like alone with my own thoughts, not socializing at all. I didn't really have friends till like way later in life, and I sort of liked it that way. Because I just wanted to be alone with my own thoughts. And I was lucky that I was always allowed to be whatever. Yeah, I feel like in many ways it felt like I was like raised in a vacuum, just like alone in my little room.
What's your dynamic like with your family?
Very, very like severely overprotected. Like very, very like I was this like little like I was this like little ballerina in a music box. I was just like very like, oh, don't go there because you might like very, very very overprotected. And it wasn't until I came to New York that I started like falling on my face a little more. Not coming to New York, but starting to the road to like pursuing coming to New York was when I really started getting like my little like taste at like true discomfort and danger, which is very exciting. But yeah, I feel like I understand my childhood very well, and I like my childhood. And then my adolescence is this sort of like the lost years. Like there are no photographs, there are no anecdotes, there are no memories. They're like, I don't know what I did. Gone.
Locked it all out. Gone. Me too.
Gone. Locked it all gone. So it was just like I hit puberty and who knows? And then I graduated high school.
Did you did you feel like you were able to express your queerness through those years, or even leading up to those years?
No, not really. I feel like definitely as a child I did whatever the hell I wanted to do. I played with Barbies. I dressed up in whatever ways that I wanted to play and dress up, and that was never a thing. And then maybe there's something about the tyranny of like kids policing each other from their adolescence.
Mm-hmm.
That made me be like, whoop, no, these years don't count. I'm just waiting to graduate. It was just not fun. And like a lot of that period I just didn't like. It wasn't fun. My we had like my father inherited a lot of debt, and then like that like sunk us into a hole. So then like suddenly the like little prince that I was as a little boy, just like, just we just couldn't afford a lot of things anymore. And it was suddenly just like, like doing the mental math at the supermarket and all these things. And it was just like uh difficult and not, I keep saying not fun.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah. And so yeah, a lot of those years I maybe I'll revisit them at some point. But for now, it's like I feel like through my work and through being able to do what I love, I have afforded myself the luxury of returning to that childhood that I liked so much. Of being like, okay, now I'm the little prince again. And like I am buying my toys and I am getting my little things, and just yeah, so it's like
so joyous. That's so joyous. That's beautiful. I'm curious about what your upbringing was like as a little queer kid in El Salvador, because my boyfriend is actually Salvadoran as well.
yeah, you mentioned that, I think, when we talked. Yes.
When we met, I did mention it. Yes, absolutely. And you were such an expander for him when he first watched My Favorite Shapes, because I think that you were one of the first examples he had for like queer cultural public figures from El Salvador who were navigating their way through the world in a way that was very authentic to who they are. And it seemed like you were doing it very unapologetically so. And I don't think that he really had a blueprint or a roadmap prior to learning of your existence. Did you have any like queer cultural markers or reflections of yourself in the media while growing up at all?
No, not really. And really, it felt like the queerness was secondary to a whole lot of other things. Identity wise, it felt like yes, I am a boy who likes boys, but then there's also like all these other things that make me different, and that is like a part of that. And my priority is not to go to a place where I, as a boy, can like other boys. It's like just to in general be what I want to be. So that felt like in many actually, like growing up and through like being a little kid, and especially being an adolescent, being an atheist was so much a bigger part of my identity than anything else, and was like the thing that I brushed up against, and like the thing that that made me feel like an other, and the thing that made me feel out of place, and like I didn't like the place that I was in. It was a lot of that. And then in my mind it was like, yeah, and then there's a queer thing, but like that's like to the fact that there is no God.
Yeah, right. So you being an atheist, was this something that you were like rebelling against, like a very religious environment that you were raised in, or was your family not? Was your family?
No, my family's like just like an amalgamation of a bunch of things, including Catholic. They're very reasonable, very smart people, but definitely the people in my school weren't. It was like a very status quo, loving school, and I just felt so like trapped. Any time that I have been positioned to be like part of like a system, I've just been like, no.
Makes me feel like I can't breathe, like I'm in the tightest corset on earth, like can't handle it.
Yeah, I like any sense of like patriotism or like school pride or any of that. I'm just so allergic to it.
It's interesting what you were saying about how you viewed yourself as a kid, like a very like solitary kid who spent a lot of time in your imagination playing with your toys. Like I felt completely relate. I felt like I was absolutely the same way. And I feel like one of the first times that I saw a reflection of my childhood self wasn't until my adult years, when I saw a sketch that you wrote for Saturday Night Live, the Fisher Price Wells for Boys.
Sure, yeah.
That was me. I mean, I thought it was like just it encapsulated what the inner world of little boys who aren't like everyone else, in a way, you know, who just spends.
Yeah, I was very like moved and surprised that that sketch resonated with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't like with everything I've ever been a part of. It feels like, well, we'll see if people like it or not, and I'm always surprised when they do. I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, because I think that the things that you pay attention to aren't necessarily niche. They're very broad and very universal. I think that
Right.
when you pay attention with such incredible detail to like seemingly mundane things, and then have the ability, as you do, to kind of like infuse them and uh, imbibe them with like their own inner world. That inner world is only reflective of like the things that we all think and the things that we all feel, and it kind of breaks down the walls of otherness and just kind of like lays it out on a very relatable, universal platform.
Yeah, I've been called. I bring this up in the special. I've been labeled as niche by executives, and it feels like, well, not really. Like the things that I talk about are like surprisingly relatable, and in terms of just like structure, there's like actual joke writing in this in my work, and so I'm always like, again with the niche thing. Why is that? And I think it's the packaging that throws people off, maybe, or just the road, even if the destination is a very recognizable one.
Yeah.
That like throws some people off. They're like, wait, but he's not wearing a hoodie and like in front of like a red curtain, and he's gay, but he hasn't used the word gay yet, and he's Hispanic, but his abuela hasn't factored into this, like not a one time. So what is this? It's just let people be who they are.
Well, that's exactly it, because I thought that was something so special about your special. When I saw it, is that I had a very clear idea as to who you are, just based on the way that you present yourself to the world, without you ever having to actually spell it out for us or spoon feed it to us by telling us that you're a gay man, that you're Hispanic, that you're like
Yeah.
I thought it was a very interesting form of self-expression, and one that is so rarely seen in media. It's just such a breath of fresh air in many ways. But I think I want to go back to the beginning of your journey. So you were raised in El Salvador, and then you said that you had a challenging experience in your journey to immigration to the United States and getting your green card. How did that? What was that story? So did you go from El Salvador straight to New York?
Yes. I mean, a challenging experience for me, a incredibly easy experience compared to the harrowing, horrible things that people have to do to live here. But yes, I came to New York roughly 10 years ago from El Salvador under a student visa.
Okay.
I applied a couple of times to the college I went to, and then they finally gave me a scholarship that was doable for me. And I came here, and then I graduated, and then that visa was about to expire, so I had to get a work visa. I just casted a really wide net trying to find a sponsor for that work visa. It was very difficult to be like, to wake up every day and be like, oh, is this the day when I finally solve the problem of how I'm going to stay in the States? Or by the time I come back to bed tonight, another it'll be another day wasted, and I'm not closer to my goal of being able to stay in the States and finally start actually living my life without, like, when will I be able to just feel like I am here and like I can go on dates and parties and restaurants and just be a part of the world in the way that I see my roommates being a part of the world. Like, when will I cease being this like little robot, this like little Craigslist robot who wakes up every day trying to like solve this problem?
How long did it go on for?
That period was like a year long, of like trying to find the sponsors, and then like sort of like in the nick of time I found someone who wanted to sponsor me, and then they became my sponsors. And then when I was working with them, I started thinking about comedy, and then I started doing stand-up, and through that path I got an artist visa, which was way easier than getting a work visa. And then now I have a green card. But you know, like during this quarantine, I've been watching a movie a day. That's like my little treat, like end of the day treat. And I recognize that the characters in film that I connect with the most, the characters that I relate to the most, are robots, ghosts, AIs, holograms, and like Pinocchio. And what they have in common is they are not a part of this world, but they desperately want to be a part of it. And that's like, that pathos feels so real to like the immigrant experience of like feeling like you're here, but you're not quite here. You're figuring out the world around you. You're like surveying and exploring, and your otherness is like sort of like the headline of you. And there's this scene in the recent Blade Runner with Ryan Gosling. I don't know if you saw it.
I saw it, yeah.
Okay, there's this beautiful, like incredibly moving scene where in the movie, for those of you who haven't seen it, Ryan Gosling is an AI. He's basically a robot, but he has a body, right? And he has this relationship with a hologram, this like hologram who is in love with him, but she can't touch him because she's basically light, right? And they long for each other. So she hires a robot sex worker to come into the relationship, and then she sort of like ghostly enters the robot so she can at least like pretend to touch Gosling's character. And that to me felt like, and that is being an immigrant. Like, that to me felt like, and that right there is like exactly sort of what it feels like to be like, oh no, I can't, yeah, I would like to work for you, but legally I can't take any money from you till I have a sponsor. I am just looking for a vessel, you see. I am just looking for that is all I want. I just want a vessel so I can finally go and like live my life. And that is really what it feels like. Like the whole like Little Mermaid thing of just like wanting to come to land but not having legs is just like another immigrant story.
I'm also now realizing, hearing you break down the synopsis of Blade Runner, that it also kind of sounds like the sequel to like Lars and the Real Girl, you know?
Oh my God, I haven't revisited. I thought about that movie the other day. I should revisit it because I remember like loving it. Because even as a kid, like anything with a protagonist who was like a little off and weird and isolated and an other, I really, really liked. Like as a teenager, my favorite movie was Birth with Nicole Kidman. Nicole Kidman plays this woman who is convinced that her husband has reincarnated in the body of this little boy
Yes.
and develops a relationship with the little boy.
Mhm.
And that was just so like, oh, love that. And also like my when I think of like my favorite performances in film, like one of the ones that comes to mind is Scarlett Johansson's voice in Her.
Yes.
It is like, oh my God, her longing for like figuring herself out and then just like pretending to be like a human girlfriend on the phone, sort of, but then realizing like, why am I trying to like pretend to be like some girlfriend on a phone when I am actually this like omnipresent thing that needs to grow and expand? I was just like, oh, that is so beautiful. And also one of the most moving performances I've seen recently in film has been the live action Winnie the Pooh. Did you see that?
No.
Oh God, Pooh in that movie. I was like, I need to see Winnie the Pooh in other roles. I need to see Winnie the Pooh in a war drama. I need to see Winnie the Pooh in Cold Mountain. I need to see Winnie the Pooh just because his acting is so beautiful. I was just like, someone sign Winnie the Pooh and just like make him star in other movies.
That's
So good. When there are moments in the movie where he like starts to confront the edges of his intelligence, and it becomes clear to him that he's not very brilliant. And like those moments where he's like, oh, think, where it's just like, oh, he knows he's a dummy, and it's just so sweet and so wonderful. And one of my favorite performances.
Who can't relate to that every once in a while, you know?
Oh,
So when you like your journey towards coming to New York, was that something that you always dreamed of? Like, did you?
yes. Oh my God, I had a little like a corny little like etching of the New York City skyline in my room growing up, because it was just like, because I always thought like, why would anyone not want to be in the biggest city in the world? Why would anyone not want to go to the nucleus? Why would anyone want to like hover around the epicenter and not be in it?
Where were you raised? Were you raised in a small town in a big city?
In San Salvador, which is proportionally it's not a big city, but it's the capital, and it's a very densely populated city, and it's not I wasn't faced when I came to New York with like big city life, because San Salvador is very loud and it's chaotic and it's dangerous, and so it wasn't like, like suburban American kids coming to New York and being like, oh, a homeless person. I was more like, oh, whoa, so I'm not gonna get killed if I go to the store at night. So yeah, and I always wanted to come to New York. I was just very stubborn about it. Very stubborn about it. I could have picked easier paths if just leaving El Salvador was my goal. Some kids I know that also wanted to leave went to other places in South America. They went to Buenos Aires or even Chile, or they went to Mexico. Like pretty much any other country you pick will be easier to migrate to than here. Even Canada would have been like way easier of an opportunity.
Girl, I mean, even me as a Canadian immigrating to the United States, that was a challenge because we aren't we aren't necessarily eligible for none of us are in the green card lottery. Like they make it quite challenging for Canadians to be able to move and live and work in the United States.
Yeah, it's because every step of the way, it's almost like the system is telling you, turn back.
Yeah.
Every step of the way, it's like the system is telling you, is this hard enough for you? No? Okay, well, here's this other level. Like, and it really takes a very stubborn person to to keep going down that path and being like, oh, okay, so now you're making it harder. Okay, great. Oh, now the walls are coming in. Okay, yeah, I'll run faster then. And it's just, and that's doing it legally, and that's doing it with the ability and the privilege of being able to do it legally. And oh my God, yeah, and that's the easier way of doing it.
Did you have any point of reference or anybody who had came before you who you could use as like a beacon of hope that, oh, they have done this, I can do it too?
Not really. I didn't know anyone here in New York. And a lot of it was uncharted territory for me and my family. Because my like every family in El Salvador has relatives who come to the States, but their paths were different. So yeah, I came here and there wasn't really a support system, or I didn't have, because it changes dramatically from generation to generation. So the fact that I have like an aunt who came to the States in the 80s, like whatever she learned is completely non-applicable to my journey here, because it's completely different. And in fact, I'm talking to people who are trying to get their green cards now, and even the advice I'm giving them is outdated, because everything just becomes so much harder day by day.
With this administration,
especially with this administration, most especially with this administration. So a lot of what I was doing, it was just so much trial and error, and being like, oh, I don't know anyone my age who's doing this to sort of like the same degree of challenge. Because again, picking the hardest route every step of the way, it's like, okay, all right, fine. He came to New York, he's going to go to school to New York. That's not unheard of. Other Salvadorian kids are doing that. Oh, what's that? That the other kids are getting like hireable jobs. He is getting, I'm sorry, an English degree to maybe be a writer. and it's like, okay, well, now the government says that I have to get a job in my area of study. And it's like, okay, good. Armed with an arts degree, you go ahead and do that. And then it was like, okay, so now I am someone who has the added burden of having an immigration cloud over them, right? And then, okay, not just that, but he is going to go to the hardest city in the world to migrate to. Okay, and then, oh, okay, now he's going to get a degree in a field that he will most certainly not find a job in. All right, okay, and now he's going to do stand-up. Oh, and he's going to be an alternative comedian. not even like a sellable, like put him on TV immediately comedian, but like a slow burn of a comedian. But it's really the only way I know how to do things, I guess.
But what was the vision or the intention or your end goal in mind? Because I feel like for myself, somebody who, we may not have had the exact same experience, but moving from another country to the United States, having to go through the proper legal process of getting our green cards. I have my citizenship now as well. Because it was so challenging for so many months and years, the first couple of years, the only way I got through it was holding on to that end goal, that vision of me, like, end destination. What was it for you? What was that vision?
It was very, I knew that I wanted to write funny things. I didn't even describe it as comedy. I wanted to write things that were funny, maybe, and television or film. That's really what I wanted to do. And I wanted to have this life where like I wrote something and like really incredible actors were like dying to be in them, and just have this like very glamorous, not glamorous, but like a very idealized vision of being like a New York City writer. That's what I wanted to do. And then I graduated. So, but I hadn't defined a path to it. And then it wasn't until I graduated college where I was just like, okay, I have been in this country for years now, and I don't understand how to go from like writing something on my computer to it getting made. And some people are saying like get a master's, and just I'm sure as hell not going to do that. And then I just thought like, oh, it just suddenly a light bulb went off, and it was just like, oh, I can just do stand up because it doesn't require me asking anyone for permission. I don't have to spend any money. I don't have to know anyone. I can just I can just Google New York City open mic, and I did, and I started doing that.
Wow.
That was the easiest way of doing it.
Oh my gosh. So then how were you doing that before it led to you signing on as a staff writer on SNL?
I was interviewed for the job, I think year 2 of doing comedy. I was very like green. And I did not get the job. And then I got the job a year later, I think, or like a year and a half later.
And was that something that you had aspired to? Was that a goal that you had set, or was that something that just kind of manifested?
I don't know that I was like laser focused. I want to write on Saturday Night Live. In fact, I don't think I was. Because I've enjoyed that show for so long, and I have admired so much of the work in that show for so long, but it never felt like I never saw I don't know, what are some of my favorite sketches? I never saw like the Donatella Versace sketches and think, oh, I can do that. I thought, oh, that's funny. And there's a big difference between the two. Because I thought like, oh, whatever I do, I don't think it's that. And to this day, I remain like a loyal fan to those kinds of sketches, but I never pretended to know how to do that, because I only know how to do my thing. So I never really thought, oh, I will be a writer there. But once it became an opportunity, I was like, no, I will be.
Did you ever have the intention or the desire to be on camera yourself in the way that you have now become like a writer / actor / comedian?
Yeah, not really, because I mean, yes and no. Like, yeah, yes, of course, like there's a part of the ego that wants to have yourself physically on camera. But I feel like I learned that I didn't learn, I relearned that my strengths are better suited like creating things. And it is more challenging to create worlds when your priority is to perform. It is very, very difficult. I don't think that a Wells for Boys, for example, would have happened if my job was to be in small parts in several sketches.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that my human shell is my strength. I think that is when I am like sort of this like disembodied creator that I actually have some purpose.
And how do you feel at this point watching yourself on camera?
I have grown okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I acting is definitely something very new to me. Because I never saw myself as an actor, and I'm obviously an actor in Los Spookies. The character that I played, I made up, and is sort of like a cartoon version of one aspect of myself. But even then, oh my God, it was just like first days doing that, I was like, okay, fuck, I have to stop looking straight into the camera. I just have to stop looking straight into the camera. Just like, and then just sort of like learning to act on set, and then just like observing the very talented actors around me, like chief among them being Anna, who's my friend and co-creator of the show. And she's so brilliant. Like, aside from being a brilliant writer, she's a very brilliant performer. She plays Tati on the show. And then just sort of like in between takes, watching her and being like, oh, I see. She's acting even when she's not even when she's not talking. Okay, I gotta learn how to do that. Like, oh, so even when she's quiet, she's acting. All right. Like, note to self, tomorrow I'm gonna do that.
Julio, you're telling me this was your first time on Los Spookies acting, like in a character that's not Julio Torres?
No, I had like little what they call under fives, maybe like a couple, like being like a barista or like something for like like very small parts and things, but never like a scene that was about me or like the character that I'm playing.
Are blowing my mind right now because Andres and Tati are two of my favorite characters in like cinematic history. I think they're
that's so sweet. That's so sweet. I think
ridiculous human beings.
Andres is a very ridiculous human being, but Andres is a community effort. Andres takes a village. Andres is a lot of the work of a brilliant wardrobe designer who's just her name is Muriel, and she's like, oh my god, she's so genius. And it was like when it wasn't until like she showed me like Andres's like little blouses that I was like, oh, okay, so he's a Ruffles guy. Okay.
Yes, she is, honey. Yes, she is.
Yes, she definitely is. It's like a look on top of a look on top of a look, like incredibly like overly produced person, which is fun to play with. I really like playing difficult people.
Oof, yes.
Like Anna likes playing stupid people. I like playing like very difficult people.
She does it so brilliantly. It's like when I see the character of Tati, I can think of like 6 different people. She's like embodying the manners and characteristics of like 6 different people that I know in my personal life, which is so bizarre to watch.
She's sort of, with that role, she's sort of redefining the idiot in a way that's like really refreshing, because it's really hard to play dumb in such a loving, human way.
Definitely.
It comes close to the Winnie the Pooh that I bring up. It's a very, just someone who doesn't understand themselves is so funny, and she does it so well, and the performance is like it's like a little Charlie Chaplin, it's a little Buster Keaton, and it's just like it's so interesting and so unique to that character. It's not like, oh, she's playing this type of person. It's like, wait, no, this is a new type of person that we're seeing, and that is so refreshing.
Yeah, she's brilliant. She's so brilliant. How did you two meet?
We through just like this back of bar stand-up shows in Brooklyn. I met her when she was first starting to do comedy, and then we became friends, and we really liked each other's work. And then Fred Armisen reached out to us independently of each other, asking if we wanted to help him make the show. And he didn't even know that we were friends. He thought he was recruiting 2 different comedians that he liked. And it turns out that it was like, oh my God, I get to do this with my friend. And it was such a dream scenario of just like, this like incredible comedian you've admired for so long wants to work with you. Okay, and the follow-up is he also wants to work with your like really close friend. And that was just great. And it's been heaven. I love doing that show, and I love writing it.
And it's like the perfect manifestation of your intentions in writing, a television series or film in New York writer, and having these badass, incredibly talented actors sign on and come on board with you. I mean, Fred Armisen, Carol Kane.
She's so great.
I mean, what a win. It doesn't get any better than that.
So great.
So iconic. So have you guys completed production on season 2 at this point?
No, we were doing season 2 and then we had to stop. We have like roughly like a little less than a month worth of work to do. And we'll resume it whenever it's safe to do it. Obviously, it's anyone's guess.
You guys film in Chile, right?
We filmed in Santiago, yeah, we filmed in Chile.
How does this look for you? I mean, like the idea of going back and even if and when restrictions loosen, how do you see going back and filming a television series at this point? I mean, there's the logistics of the behind the scenes nature of being on a set.
Exactly. It's
then also the intimacy of being in a scene with your scene partner. Like, how do we navigate that?
These are questions that the industry is incapable of answering just yet, because I think like within the next few months, if everything goes right, people will start slowly going back to work. But working in an office is very different than like being packed in a room with 50 people. And you know, as an actor, people are touching your face, they're micing you, and everyone is, it's, I don't know, I feel like it is something that the industry is going to have to figure out, to be like, how do we safely get the people behind the scenes to start working?
Yeah.
Again, because I mean, talk about a non-essential business. Our business, baby. So it's like I'm all for like, no, let's first get like essential workers protected and safe and be able to do their jobs without them risking their lives, and then like let's just put a pin on the film and television industry for a while. And while we do it, let's, you know, have all of these like powerful companies step up and pay or help out the people behind the scenes who don't make as much money, you know, because it's like people also think film industry, they think actors, but no, it's not just like very rich actors who work in the film industry. Actually, most of them are working class, like PAs and gaffers and lighting people, and yeah, but it's like any industry that requires a bunch of people in close proximity to each other is going to be challenging for a while.
Definitely. Yeah. You know, I think this is, I mean, I think you're right. I think that at this point, you put it perfectly. These are all questions that people in the industry are incapable of answering at this point. You know, it's things that we can like ponder and freak out over, but like, what's the point for the time being? Like something else that I think is very interesting that people have been freaking out over in quarantine over the past week was the Pentagon releasing footage of UFOs or of UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenons. Have you seen these videos?
Wait, I completely missed this.
This blows my mind that you of all people missed this. So these videos that the Pentagon has just released are of like military fighter crafts, video footage that they have taken from their airplanes, like following UFOs in like American airspace. And these videos were actually originally leaked and released about 2 years ago, and Anderson Cooper did like a whole special on it on CNN like a year or two ago. But now I feel like it was just like a very interesting time of all times for the Pentagon to like confirm it, that this is real, these are UFOs. Also, like, you know, like just to add to the stress of like you all like are already feeling like the world is ending and you're trapped in your homes, but here's an extra little cherry on top.
Yeah, but also like here's a little distraction. Like, oh, can you just freak out about the UFOs because we don't have our shit together? Can you just like, yeah, maybe it's the aliens. That's like, yeah.
What are your thoughts on extraterrestrial life?
Oh, they're out there, baby. You know it, I know it. Can't wait. I want to be the ambassador. I excited.
I would definitely nominate you or elect you. I mean, neither of us were born and raised in America, so neither of us could be the president, but you could definitely be the ambassador of humanity for alien species.
Love to.
Speaking of which, we've just gone through the past 2 years of just like ridiculous political theater, you know, leading up to the presidential election, and now we're left with the choice of like one old white cis dude versus
Yeah.
cis dude. Like what the fuck? How did we end up here? Did you see that coming?
Yeah, yes, from the very beginning. I don't know. I'm like very cognizant that like me and my friends and you and your friends, we're sadly not representative of the, you know, the way the establishment works, and not the way that like not what is being communicated to the masses, and or not what the masses will go for. I mean, it's just so lamentable. It's like, because with Bernie, it just felt so close. It felt so close. It felt like the closest the progressive agenda has gotten, and that is significant. And he has moved the conversation in a positive direction, and I don't think that is to be ignored. But yeah, now we have a choice from a crazy extreme or a middle compromise, and that's you know, not exciting and not helpful in so many respects. You know, climate change doesn't need a compromise; it needs incredible action. Something that I just keep reminding myself and remind people who have the ability to vote, because I don't have that here yet, is for so many people, there actually is a colossal difference between a Biden presidency and a Trump presidency. Mm-hmm. So and I'm even going to put myself in this boat, even though, you know, I'm not a citizen yet. My day-to-day life will continue to be okay with Trump as president, probably. Like, I will continue to not to do what I do and to live my life. But this is a presidency that goes out of its way to hurt the ones that need help the most. Mm-hmm. And that is not something that like maliciousness is not something that a middle of the road presidency will have. So a middle of the road presidency won't, you know, take corporations to task in the way that we need them to, won't help climate change in the way that we desperately need it to, but they're also not going to tear families apart at the border and put them in separate cages. And
which is happening to so many Salvadorans. I mean,
yes,
there's
countless Salvadorans. You're not gonna like sneakily like change the rules so like trans people can do like less things. You know, it's like that like maliciousness. It's sort of like the choice. The choice is like, we don't get to have the healthy meal, so now our choices are to have the unhealthy meal or poison.
Right. I thought you were going to say, or the bland meal, but you're right. It's one of them. It's
yeah. So it's like, okay, so you can't have like the salad that your body desperately needs.
Right.
Eat the really shitty cheeseburger before you chug down the poison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and you say it won't necessarily affect our day-to-day lives in the way that, you know, when we walk down the street, we may not necessarily have to be concerned for our physical safety, but it certainly is extraordinarily detrimental to our emotional well-being. And
it is, absolutely.
Spiritual well-being. I mean, just speaking for myself as a Black queer man, I when Trump was first elected, I went to bed crying almost every night for months.
Oh yeah.
And even
because he has put hate into the mainstream. He has emboldened hate to catastrophic levels that a Biden presidency, middle of the road as it may be, is not gonna do.
And you know, it was so interesting because this was my first time voting in a presidential primary election, because I just became a citizen this past summer, a dual citizen. I guess I was so shocked initially at the amount of the black vote that Biden got during the primaries during the
The Obama Association. That's it. Like coasting on reputation, not action.
So yes, Julio, absolutely. And then also when I started to ask questions and dig a little bit deeper into it and really find out like the root of why so many older Black Americans voted for somebody who was much more middle of the road and moderate than somebody who really had their policies are much more in alignment with their general, their beliefs and their way of being, and somebody who's really going to help them not only survive but thrive in this country. And what I discovered was that so many Black Americans, older Black Americans, just have absolutely zero faith in the status quo and in older white Americans. Because if history has taught us anything, it's that older white Americans have never voted in the interest of anyone but themselves. They've never voted in the interest of others or of Black people specifically, of people of color, trans people, of queer people, anyone who's not like them, which was really, it really broke my heart, but also put things in perspective for me that unfortunately in a position that we're in right now, if we want to survive and get ahead, maybe we have to just play the game.
I mean, right now there's no option, right? Right now it's like you have two options. Again, like the shitty meal or the poison.
Yeah.
So yeah, now unfortunately we do have to compromise.
Definitely.
And I understand the frustration, and I really understand really not wanting to physically take your body to go vote for Biden.
Yeah.
But if you don't do it for yourself, just take a second and think of the people whose lives will be destroyed by Trump continuing to be president.
Oh, I will. I am. My vote is, if Biden is our nominee, my vote 100% goes to Biden. Anything to end this nightmare that we've been living in for the past nearly 4 years. What is your spiritual practice?
Oh, none to light astrology, none to like very entry level astrology.
Are you Aquarius?
I'm an Aquarius and deeply proud.
Oh, I love.
Very much identify as an Aquarius.
Do you have do you tend to be drawn to a certain sign? Do you have are a lot of your friends a certain sign, or partners, or?
I attract a lot of Virgos. Virgos are really into like hanging with me. I attract a lot of Virgos. I've noticed.
That makes sense because I'm a Libra on the Scorpio cusp with a Virgo moon.
There, your moon was like, gotta interview.
Yeah.
Yes, I am sort of a bit of a Virgo magnet. I love Leos. Anna's a Leo. A roommate of like 7 years that I never had any problem with and I love is a Leo. I have grown over the past, since the beginning of the year, very fond of Aries. They're so carefree and playful and sweet about an Aries that I was just like, oh, there's so much joy. I like them. And also, lastly, I've learned that I really like Cancers too, because I am not a homemaker by any standards, and there's something about someone that makes me feel safe that I enjoy. Dave McCary, who directed pretty much every SNL sketch that I wrote, including Waltz for Boys, is a Cancer. And I feel like, oh, you understand what we're doing here? Like, yeah, okay, great. And it's just like there's something very like sheltering about his presence that I like.
Find yourself a partner that's a Cancer, because I feel like there's that is the key to a sustainable, healthy, joyful, safe relationship.
I know. Shopping for a Cancer, Aries, Leo.
What a combo.
Yeah.
What do you think the biggest misconception about you is?
The biggest misconception about me, I think that because I am very particular and I'm very vocal about what I like and what I don't like, and I want things to be a certain way. And because I play this incredibly difficult character on TV, people think that I'm like a diva of some sort, like a sort of like pampered diva. And I am not a diva. I am just a very particular person. And I think there's a distinction to be made there.
I need to get that tattooed on me. I am just a very particular person. Like,
yeah, exactly.
That's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
When was the last time you cried?
Oh, not long ago. Maybe a couple of days ago.
I feel like that's everyone's answer at this point, really.
Yes, yeah.
What's the best advice that you've ever received?
Best advice I've ever received. I mean, it wasn't like verbal advice, but it was just sort of like the thesis statement of how I was raised. I think was just like very like, try things, and if you fail at them, so what? And just like do what you want to do, and just this like very free, experimental, open way of living.
That's beautiful. When or where do you feel most authentically yourself?
I feel the happiest, and I think that is when I am most authentically myself. When I am surrounded by pretty things, and I am relaxed, and I have a window or like something beautiful to look at.
Does that generally mean your home? For that, like what you just described?
I think so. For now, it's home. Yeah.
What do you celebrate or love most about yourself?
Oh, I'm not really one to celebrate myself. Anytime that I do something that I'm proud of, I'm like, well, yes, but also I haven't done these other things. And then I just like go and do those other things. So I'm not like a give myself a pat on the back sort of person. I didn't go to my college graduation because I thought, well, I don't have a sponsor for my work visa, so what's there to celebrate? I can't waste time at a party. And I feel like that is sort of how I still operate. But I like myself. I have a very like healthy. it's just I have a hard time being like putting the mission accomplished banner behind me.
All right. Okay. I think that we all I know that we all have intuition. I think we have like stage direction from the universe. We have that like inner voice guiding us to go left or right, or to, guiding us to what's right or what's wrong. That inner voice is always whispering inside of me. What is whispering inside of you the loudest right now?
Like keep doing what you're doing. Stay the course.
I love that.
Yeah.
My one of my best friends, Brita Wool, her voicemail that's her outgoing voicemail that's been her outgoing voicemail message for the past 10 years since she was living in New York. Sometimes I'll just call it just to hear it and tell her to not pick up so I can hear it. It says, I just want to let you know that I love you and I think you're doing a great job.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful.
I'm going to send it to you just so you can listen to it. So that little boost. I love it. So I think you're doing a great job, Julio.
Oh, thank you. You too.
All right, everyone, we are out of time. Thank you for tuning into my frequency, and thank you to my phenomenal guest, Julio Torres, for having us.
Thank you for having me.
It was an absolute dream come true. I'm so appreciative of you taking the time to sit down and chat with me.
So fun. Thanks.
Thanks, love. And if I can leave you all with one thing, it's this. Celebrate yourself and love each other. I'm JBC, and I love you. Remember to subscribe, rate, and leave a comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or however you tune into our frequency. You can support us by sharing this episode with a friend and spreading the love with each other. You can find us at conversationswithothers.com and reach us at Conversations with Others on Instagram, at CWO Podcast on Twitter, and Conversations with Others Podcast at gmail.com. Our outro song is Looking for Another by Brittany Allen.